Okay, I think we can get started now. It's about a minute after the hour. Thanks to all of you for joining. Welcome to our webinar today titled, What is the RDA and Why Should I Attend the 10th Plenary in Montreal? My name is Yolanda Mellico, Project Director at RDA US, and I will be presenting alongside Dr. Ingrid Dillow, RDA Secretary General, Mark Leggett, Executive Director of Research Data Canada, and Lynn Yarmy, Community Development Director at RDA US. Before we get started, I want to let you all know that the webinar today is in listen-only mode, meaning your audio will be disabled. However, we do encourage you to still participate and ask questions. If you have a comment or question about the information we're sharing with you, please just type it in the Q&A box of the webinar platform. We will be moderating that window and we'll be responding at various intervals during the webinar today. Also important to add, we are recording today's webinar, so within about a week's time frame, we will not only be sending you out a link to all of it, but also posting the presentation to our websites. So without further delay, I will now turn the webinar over to Dr. Ingrid Dillow. Ingrid?
Thank you very much, Yolanda. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Great. So welcome to everyone in the call, and thank you very much for joining us today, and I hope we will be able to present you some relevant information and hopefully also raise your interest for RDA and the upcoming 10th plenary. In this first slot, I will try to tell you a little bit more about RDA, the RDA organization, the why, the what, and the how. And, well, what is RDA? I think RDA is a very open and neutral forum that is at the core of RDA. It is an independent community and it provides, you could say, a meeting place for a very broad constituency. Oh, and I would like to see the next slide. Sorry for that, Yolanda. Thank you. So a very broad constituency, and the RDA is also a very cross-disciplinary organization and a very global organization. And because all of this, I think RDA is very well situated to tackle challenges and meet needs. So what are these problems that the RDA tries to address? Center stage of all of that is the challenge of data sharing. We all know that the value of data for excellent research and also for innovation is becoming more and more recognized. And in order to be able to share data, we of course need to make sure that we know what the data mean, where you can find the data that you need, that we need to make sure that data are in the right form, the right format, the right metadata for analysis. And we also need to take care that we preserve the data in the right way in order to get a maximum profit from them over time. So all in all, we need to make the data fair, findable, accessible, interoperable, and reproducible. And the RDA can play an important role in that. So if we move on to the next slide, we see the vision and mission of RDA. So the Research Data Alliance has this vision for the future, for a future in which researchers and innovators alike can openly share data, not only across technologies, but also across disciplines and geographically across countries. And that way we will be able to better address the grand challenges that we are faced with in society. And the RDA tries to accomplish that by building bridges that enable open sharing of data. And here you can see that it's not only about technical bridges, but also about social bridges. And I think that it is very important because we know that in fact most of the challenges that we face with respect to data sharing are social and cultural issues. So that is very important. Now if we move to the next slide, then we go more from the why to the what. What is it that the Research Data Alliance delivers in this area of data sharing? The main products of the RDA are recommendations. And these recommendations can come in all kinds of forms. It can be a piece of code. It can be a policy in a certain area. It can be specifications or standards or any other practice that enables data sharing. And they can come in all kinds of forms, but they do have some elements in common. We have a strong focus on impact. And we try to produce outcomes, output that is usable and adoptable by others. And we would like them to be implementable and by adopters straight away. And then if you move to the next slide, you see a number of examples of outputs that have come out of RDA working groups up till now. And you see 3 examples, 3 working groups. The first working group you see is a working group that has been active in the area of repository certification. And they have produced a common catalog of certification requirements. And this common catalog is based on 2, let's say, already existing catalogs of requirements. 2 organizations that have met under the umbrella of RDA and that have decided to merge their activities and their efforts and create new harmonized standard and procedures. And this, I think, is a very important role that RDA can play by bringing together different parties within the data community. And here we can really speak of a social bridge that has been built. And as you can see, there are also numerous adopters of this new product of harmonized standard and procedures going over different disciplines, Clarin being in the language technology area, but also the life sciences and the social sciences have adopted this product of RDA. The second working group deals with data type registries. They have come up with a data type model and also a prototype registry. So this is more an example of a technical solution. A technical solution that can support researchers in the choice of their data types and the accurate use of their data. And here again, you can see that there is a large range of adopters of this RDA product. Now, the first 2 working groups worked in, let's say, on generic themes, but we also have a growing number of working groups within RDA that are centered around a certain discipline. And one of them is in this list. It's the Wheat Data Interoperability Working Group, concentrated on the agricultural sector. They have come up with a common framework for wheat data terminology. And again, you can see that this work has been adopted by some important organizations in that field, amongst others, the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO. So these are some of the some examples of the kind of products that come out of RDA working groups. Now, if you move to the next slide, that shows you a little bit of the how of RDA. The RDA is, you could say, largely a bottom-up and voluntary organization. And the heart of the work of RDA is in the groups of volunteers. And on this slide, you see the different kinds of groups that we have within RDA. A very important category is the category of the working groups. Working groups are focused groups with a limited time span of 12 to 18 months, and they are focused around the building, adopting, and using of a very tangible product. So after this period of 1.5 years, they have to present a product that is tangible and that is also adoptable by parties within the research data infrastructure. Next to that, along the way, we found out that there are some topics that are broader and that also need a broader time span. And for these topics, the interest groups come in vision. Within interest groups, we have discussions around certain themes in a more generic way, and very often from these discussion, pieces of work again that can be accommodated within shorter term working groups. So under the umbrella of interest groups, you see working groups coming and going, and the ongoing discussion on a certain theme, for example, certification is one of these themes, goes on over a longer period of time. Then the third category of groups is what we call the bird of a feather groups. These are groups that are being set up around a new thing, around an emerging topic, and then we have some preliminary discussions within these birds of a feather sessions to see whether this is a topic that really is picked up by a larger group, and where we see a future, and where we also think that maybe a working group can bring a certain topic further. So usually this is a one thing, and if there is enough interest and importance, then this topic moves on to a working group or an interest group. And finally, what we see also at plenaries is that the RDA interacts with a lot of other groups within the data community, for example, through co-located meetings, where we try to find the synergy between the RDA and other groups that are working in the data area. So I think, and on the right-hand side, you can see an overview of what we have within RDA, and you can see that we have now 85, and that's a huge number of working groups and interest groups that are active within RDA. So if we move to the next slide, we get a better impression of the RDA membership. It shows you who those volunteers are that are working in the working and interest groups and birds of a feather sessions, and where they come from. So we have over 5,900 individual members that have registered at RDA. And the large majority of these members come from academia and research. As you can see, there is also a big chunk of representatives coming from government organizations and public services. And we also have people from policy and funding agencies, and representatives also from the private sector, both from large enterprises as well as SMEs. And on the right-hand side, you can see the different roles of the people that are member of RDA, and you see that a large majority is researcher, and we also have a large category of other. What's in there, I'm not sure, but it gives you some impression of the kinds of people that form the big RDA family. So if we from there move on to the next slide, we get an insight into the geographical spread of RDA membership. And here you can see that a bit over 50% of all RDA individual members come from Europe. North America is a good second best, counting for around 1/3 of the RDA membership, and some 20% of the RDA members come from other parts of the world, like South America, Asia, and Africa. We have 128 countries represented in the RDA membership, and as you can see, the RDA community keeps on growing. And we are close to the 6,000 individual members today. So, next slide. The backbone of the RDA community are the RDA plenary meetings. So twice a year, the whole RDA family gets together, and these are very big and very inspiring meetings that rotate over the globe. And here you see a number of pictures taken at different plenaries. So we see San Diego, we see Dublin and Amsterdam, and you also see our next stop in September, that will be Canada, Montreal. And then we move over to the next slide, because we are, of course, very excited about this upcoming plenary. It will be the 10th in a long row. And this plenary in Montreal will offer a lot of opportunities. It offers the opportunity to push towards regional data sharing efforts with Canada. And it hopefully also pushes the adoption of RDA recommendations and outputs in Canada, and it gives us all kinds of possibilities also to set up joint programs in all kinds of areas. So we hope to see many of you, of course, in Montreal. And with that, I think I hand over again to Yolanda.
Yeah, thank you, Ingrid. Okay, so just to give you a little bit more detail on what our plenary meetings are, Ingrid talked about it a little bit, but we'll give you a little bit more specifics. So basically, plenaries are 2.5-day meetings that are organized by RDA that occur every 6 months, which bring together its member community to collaborate together. These are done through the individual breakouts for the working and interest groups or through the birds of a feather sessions that we talked about earlier. They also feature presentations by our working groups who have recently completed their project deliverables, as well as presentations by the organizations who are actually adopting those deliverables. Poster sessions are also a main component of the plenaries, which provide just another opportunity for attendees to exhibit their work. But ultimately, the goal of these meetings is to further enhance the work of the RDA community through the development of tangible deliverables that will improve data sharing across the board, which means across all disciplines, technologies, and regions. So what are the benefits of attending? Why should you attend this plenary if you haven't done so yet? Or if you have and want to do some more. Are you a data science professional who wants to engage more with other professionals to learn more about what they're doing in the world of data? Or perhaps you want to share with others what you've learned? Are there data challenges you're facing that you would like to solve? RDA plenaries offer you all of this and more. By engaging with the RDA community, you'll learn about new trends, strategies, research developments, directions, and policies. And you'll also meet just an amazing group of people from all different disciplines and regions who are passionate and committed to the acceleration of data sharing and the development of data infrastructure. So Mark will be talking to you shortly about our upcoming Plenary 10 in Montreal, but to give you an idea of what to expect, we thought it important to share with you some history about our 2 most recent meetings. This past April, we held P9 in Barcelona, Spain. We had over 600 people attending from 45 countries. There were 73 breakout meetings, along with presentations on 3 of our most recent outputs. We also had the opportunity to experience some sights and foods of the country with a special social event at the Peldralby's Royal Palace. And then before that, in September 2016, our 8th plenary was held in Denver, Colorado as part of International Data Week. At this meeting, we had 500 participants with 69 breakout meetings and 6 presentations by organizations on their experiences in adopting RDA's outputs. Again, this was another impressive meeting. Now we are excited to once again return to North America in beautiful Montreal, Canada, in just a few short weeks in September, which Mark Leggett now will provide an inside glimpse of what to expect. Mark?
Thanks, Yolanda. And we can go right to the next slide. I will say that I was in attendance both in Barcelona and Denver, and they were great events, beautiful cities, lots to do. So I'm excited to join my colleagues at the University of Montreal and welcome attendees to Montreal. Here's a view from the island of the city of Montreal. Montreal, I would probably say, is Canada's most cosmopolitan city, very international city, one of the few still affordable cities, large cities in the world. And as you can see, as it comes into the period of the plenary next month, we start to see the fall colors. So the city offers lots for the group. We have a lot of things planned for the attendees for the plenary. And the next slide you'll see that Montreal also offers individual opportunities for whatever might strike your fancy. Here we have somebody playing the piano outside one of the cathedrals in Montreal. Montreal is certainly known for its shops, restaurants, and a lot of parks and facilities that offer a lot for people to do. Next slide. Montreal is also one of Canada's biggest cities. It's very central. On the East Coast, it's very close. It's an easy drive from places like Boston and New York. It's also has hundreds of flights each week, both from the U.S. and other international jurisdictions. So it's a very easy city to get to, and if you are coming from an international venue, then you can fly directly to Montreal often, or if you need to, via Toronto or Vancouver or Halifax, Boston, New York, depending on which side of the world you're coming from. So lots of flight opportunities, and I would highly recommend extending your stay around both edges of the RDA Plenary. Next slide. There will be a lot of events at the Plenary. A couple of links in the slide deck, including the link to the registration. The program was released a couple of weeks ago, so to give you a sense of the working group and interest group meetings, and it's always a fun time to go through the program and tick off the things that you want to go to, and it's a rare occurrence when there isn't a couple of things that you would like to attend. So I would certainly encourage everybody to take a look at the program. And also the last link is a link to our sponsorship opportunities. We're still happy and ready to accept sponsors, especially those from our international community who would like to be cameoed at the Montreal event. So if you would like to consider a sponsorship, then contact me directly or click on the link. As I said, next slide, there are lots of events happening on either end of the 2.5-day plenary. This is a slide that was prepared by my colleague Aubert Landry, who is doing a lot of the work on the Canadian side for the plenary. And as you can see around the lime green boxes, he's highlighted a number of things that one can do to address the, as Ingrid referred to, the social bridges are both social bridges with our colleagues from around the world, but also with the kinds of things that Montreal, in this case, has to offer, whether it's a symphony or apple picking or the marathon across the Jacques Cartier Bridge. So as I said, I would certainly recommend an extension of your travel plans. Next slide. And this just gives you a sense of some of the planned co-located events, including a session on the PresQT Preservation Quality Tool, the Portage Network, which is Canada's library delivered research data management service and community, and a very good example of a networked community of stakeholders and service providers. So they'll be providing a couple of sessions. And International Coalition on Science Gateways is getting together. And there's also a session on legal issues around research data. So that's on the Monday. And then, of course, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is the plenary. Friday there is an invitation event that RDC is doing on national data services in Canada, and of course the weekend opportunities. Next slide. So I look forward to seeing everybody in Montreal, and I hope to say hi to everybody who does come, and hopefully we have a chance to see that beautiful Montreal Skylight in the evening as well as today. And I'll pass it over to Lynn, I believe. We're back to Yolanda.
Great, many thanks, Mark. All right, if we switch to the next slide. First, I am so excited you all are here. The RDA community has been a real source of inspiration and friendships and relationships and amazing connections for me. So I'm really looking forward to meeting you all in person in Montreal and hopefully at meetings in the future. So thank you all for coming again. There will be a question and answer period after I finish just a few more minutes of overview. So if you do have questions, please feel free to type them into the Q&A box, which should be over on the control panel, the GoToWebinar control panel. So we'll be looking forward to hearing from you in a couple minutes as well. So hopefully you're completely convinced and signing up for Montreal as we speak. I wanted to just remind you and bring it all back together of what RDA can be for you and your professional world, what we can offer in terms of data issues. So I think as Ingrid mentioned, we have almost 6,000 data experts working across issues, working on areas of common interest, working on areas that they've identified themselves as critical pieces of their own local infrastructure. Because we are volunteer, because we are community driven, the problems that we're addressing, the challenges that we're tackling are based on our membership's needs. So when you come into RDA, you can influence those, you can present your own issues, find others looking at the same challenges, and really work towards a consensus community decision and recommendation on those. So it's a really exciting, very active community, and one where we get to work, where RDA is a very outcomes-driven organization. We want to do things, and we'd certainly welcome you to join us in that. So as part of that, we do have those 30 international working groups. This is not including the 50-some interest groups or the birds of a feather sessions. These are just specific working groups looking at 18-month timelines to create something and then to adopt it. So these are people who understand the challenges. Perhaps they've identified a particular problem in an interest group, for instance, and who are really getting to work on a strict timeline with deliverables, with adoption criteria, already in contact with some adoption organizations to get something done. So these are kind of the intense activity areas in the RDA community. But more generally, we serve as a neutral forum, which can mean different things to different communities. For instance, excuse me, for some domain communities, for instance, there is already a very crowded international landscape of institutions and organizations and projects and people. In some cases, though, the challenge in that is finding a place for all of those groups to come together. So RDA can serve as that neutral venue to really make connections across existing organizations. Alternately, we have also acted as a kind of breeding ground, in a way, for new organizations, for areas where there might not be much activity, where data really hasn't broken through as an identified community topic yet. So again, we can we can lay the groundwork, or we can help you lay the groundwork for coming together as a community in and of yourselves to start addressing these problems. So we've got that flexibility built into the RDA model that has really served different domains, different technical communities, different academic or cross-sector communities very well. So we encourage you to really come and check it out and see how it maps into your world. And I'd certainly be happy to help you do that should you have any questions. So along those lines, we want to help. We're here to help. We do have some academic and support services to support the groups going forward. Each group has a governance liaison with our technical advisory committee. Excuse me. They've got connections to the secretariat. We do offer the plenaries as a meeting to get group work done. So we do have mechanisms to support that active creation process. But this isn't a one-way street. We really want to work with you. We want to work in combination with you, in partnership with you. And what we ask of you in that process is to look at and agree with the RDA principles. These are very high level openness consensus. I believe there are 7 in total. We don't expect there'll be any challenges with these, but it's something to consider. We want everyone to be on the same page when they come into our community. So this is just a baseline understanding of who we are and our values as a group going forward. So we do ask you to agree to those. We also want you to contribute. You have expertise, you have experiences, you have a unique perspective that is very important to the data conversation, and we really want you to add that to the conversation. So if we can support that in any way, if we can support your sharing of your own perspectives, again, please let us know. We'd really want to help in that way. Should RDA membership not necessarily sound particularly appropriate for you at this point, or should you want to jump in even further, consider adopting RDA recommendations. So these are the outputs of that community process, of that consensus-driven process. We have, I believe, 17 total recommendations at this point in different points of the community review tracking process. So all of those are available for adoption. Should they match up with your interests in your local environment, consider adopting these. This is how the broader data world as a whole is going to come together. We need to be active. RDA is certainly moving forward in that consensus-driven perspective, and this is one part of that. We don't just want it to end at the edges of the organization. We want to extend and grow impact and make change in organizations of our membership, and adopting recommendations is one way to do that. So next slide, and I am almost done, I promise. So be considering those questions. The benefits of RDA membership, I do just want to emphasize, you are welcome to join as an individual right now. There's no charge. If you go to the RDA website, rdalliance.org, it's down at the bottom of that screen in small text. There is a Get Involved link on the top navigation bar, and under that there's an individual membership link. We do ask you again to agree to those community values and principles, but otherwise you can join today. And what that means is you get to come into the network of people, the amazing folks that make RDA work. You can start contributing today. You can join groups that are interesting to you. Any of the 80-some groups that we have are open membership. You are welcome to join any of those. Each group, when you go to their pages, has a join link at the top. So click that button and you have access to all of their materials and conversations. And again, we ask that you add your perspective. How does their work impact you, and where are the connection points that you might see? There are also opportunities for leadership in various places throughout the organization, both on the governance and organizational side, but as well as in the community itself. Identifying topics, moving groups forward, chairing a group, things like this. So there are plenty of opportunities depending on your interest level and what you might be particularly prioritizing at the moment. I do want to mention quickly that there is an organizational membership option. So should RDA really align with your organizational goals, there is an annual fee for this. It gives your organization kind of extended access to different parts of RDA, to the process, to the discussions, and a kind of more visible, elevated place within the organization. So should that be of interest, please get in touch. There'll be contact information at the end of the presentation, and we can answer any questions that you might have on that front as well. All right, last slide, and then we're looking for questions. Excuse me again. So of our membership now, we do have 43 organizations that have taken advantage of that organizational membership option. And I think this slide is kind of fun. One, it's the typical logo slide. However, I think it also shows the breadth and diversity of the communities that RDA touches, that RDA has connections with. Anything from academic organizations to data centers, libraries, next to publishers. The private sector is really getting engaged. It's been very exciting to see the growth of the organizational membership really as a commitment from anyone who deals with data, which is all of us, which is every organization, to RDA, to the vision, to those values, and we're excited to see this grow going forward. So with that, I think we can switch to the final slide, which is just contact information. Please feel free to reach out to any of us. All of us are around. You have our emails there. And we encourage any questions that you might have right off the top of your head right now. If there's anything we can do to, for instance, answer plenary questions about Montreal, maybe think about how your work might fit into RDA, this would be a fantastic time. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Lynn. Okay, we have the question and answer box in the control panel of the GoToWebinar interface. I do see one that came in a little while ago, and it's probably more directed for you, Mark, talking about the extended program about breakout sessions being available. I think our slide said it was going to be posted on the 31st, but you can just verify that the program with the breakouts is available at this point?
Yes, the full program is available on the RDA site. I'm just the link is probably a bit long to mention here, but I'll put it into the chat window in the GoToMeeting. And the program, it's might be a little unclear when you first go in, but there's a ribbon at the top for each day. So if you click on Monday, then you'll have an opportunity to see the details for the Monday event. And I'll just put that into the chat window here.
Thank you. And
sorry, I'll send that to.
Yeah, you sent it just to the organizers then.
I don't seem to have a.
Okay. All right, I'll send it out for you.
Okay.
All right. And then maybe Lynn, can you tackle the next question on the difference between organizational and affiliate memberships?
Ooh, that's a great question, and thanks for sharing it, Yolanda. I can't see the questions, it looks like, so you're going to need to pass those around. Organizational and affiliate members. This is a really great question, and Ingrid, you might be able to answer it better than I can. Ingrid, do you think you could tackle this one?
I'll give it a go. I think the important distinction is, I'm going slowly because my mind is racing. We have a number of organizations that are more or less, let's say, lookalikes of RDA, international organizations. For example, the World Data System is one of our affiliates, which is also a member organization. Which shares a number of features, is active in the same data world as RDA is. So with organizations like that, we usually come to a agreed memorandum of understanding to collaborate with one another. The organizational members are organizations like data providers, university publishers, we heard about that, who on the one hand have people from their organizations, usually as participants, as volunteers in the working groups, but who have the feeling that they want to have a stronger tie with RDA, and they are also willing to pay a little annual fee for that, and by that also more or less supporting the RDA endeavor. So they come in at a kind of different level, and usually they are not the big international RDA-like organization. I think there we have more or less the distinction. But I must confess that it might sound a little bit low.
Okay. Thanks, Ingrid. Okay.
Thanks, Ingrid.
Yeah. We just had 2 questions that came in through the control panel. So if anyone else has any questions, feel free to type it in right now. While we're waiting, does any of our presenters have anything else they would like to add that maybe we didn't cover today?
Oh, this is Lynn. I just wanted to add to Ingrid's point. Should there be questions in terms of specific, whether an organization falls into an affiliate category or an organizational membership category, please feel free to contact the inquiries address. And at the top of your screen, inquiries@rdalliance.org, and we can work through the specifics with you. Yeah, I'm not as clear on the specific line between those two, but we can certainly get any concrete information to you should you have additional questions.
Okay. Thanks. Mark, this one is for you. It's a fragmented question, I think, but you might be able to understand. This person wants to know if there's been any contributions this year from the 4 Montreal-based universities.
Excuse me, contributions meaning sponsorships?
I would think so. If you're not clear on the response, I can connect you with the participant after the webinar too. I think no presentations. He says presentations.
Well, that I'm not exact. Certainly the Colocated Events, a substantial number of them are from Canadian institutions. The individual, often the working group and interest group meetings have presentations within the slots. So as to who might be presenting at those, to tell you the truth, I'm not sure of those details, because there's a fair number of details within those. The University of Montreal is the host, the lead institution. But I'm afraid I can't speak to presentations outside of for example, the Portage event on the Monday.
Thanks, Mark. Okay. Okay. So
if I can add quickly to that, Yolanda.
Yeah.
So when you come to an RDA meeting, we try to actually avoid a lot of presentation-heavy sessions. The hope is that we want a lot of discussion. We want a lot of interaction. We want a lot of consensus building, of trying to bring people together. So many sessions will have presentations, but we do try and keep those short, as maybe awareness building, for instance, in interest groups, but then hopefully there'll be much more of a discussion-heavy format after that. So it's not necessarily like a more academic conference meeting where sessions are typically very presentation-heavy. We do try to take advantage of the fact that everyone's in the same room to really get some work done. So hopefully that might add a little context. So,
yeah, thanks, Lynn. Another question just came through. I asking about Spanish translation. Mark, I know the answer is no on this. Some maybe French for some of the sessions, but not Spanish. What can you clarify?
As far as I know, all of the sessions will be in English.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So the questions are slowing down, but thanks for everyone for your comments. Again, the link to the webinar will be sent out probably either at the end of this week or early next week. Again, check out the program, check out our working groups and interest groups on the website too. That'll give you some more context about specific disciplines and areas that we're working in that would may be relevant to your area, and that would give you a little bit more context. Again, register soon. I know Mark had alluded to this before, but hotels are filling up. So if you plan on attending, we hope that you can get your travel booked as soon as possible. But other than that, we are very excited about what's going to be coming up in the next few weeks. I am going to end shortly. Ingrid, Mark, Lynn, would you like to say any last words?
I would just repeat you, or I forgot to mention that there are Canada and Montreal and of course RDA with the 10th plenary there are a number of anniversaries, and including Canada's 150th birthday, so there's a lot of great things going on in Montreal, so booking a hotel is highly recommended as soon as you can if you haven't already.
Okay. All right, so
and I would just be looking forward to, I'd just be looking forward to meeting all of you in Montreal. I'm always really excited to meet new RDA members and to see old friends again. So please, I don't believe many of us have met. If you're in Montreal, please feel free to reach out, say hello. I'm really excited to see you, and if there's anything I can do to make the meeting or the community or RDA in general more approachable, please let me know. I'm here to help.
Yes, and the same comes for me. I hope to see many of you in Montreal in September.
All right. Thanks all. All right, so on that note, I will end the webinar today. Have a great rest of the day or rest of the evening, wherever your time zone is. And any questions, feel free to reach out to us anytime. Thank you again. Bye-bye.